Okay, so today is the infrastructure. Sorry, oh my God, I keep getting this wrong. Today is the front end squad, and every squad for you is infrastructure. So no, today is the front end squad, and what we're going to do today, hopefully, will be a little more interesting than what we've done so far. Um, and here's the goal for today. So we have this app we've been working on, the COVID Spy app. And what we want to do is we want to add a line chart, a time series chart, right, to this app. And that's part of why I said it's probably going to be more interesting because we're going to do some interesting SQL queries, right? And I get a feeling that a lot of people can relate to the SQL queries more easily. But we're also going to relate those to the front end. We're going to add a time series chart, and we're going to add a date, like date pickers, so you can select a date range, right, to view the data for. Okay. So yeah, that's the goal for today. And now, of course, we're doing back end and front end, so we're going to start off. I think this time we're going to start off with setting up the back end to give us time series data, right, that we can use to plot our charts, and then we can bring that to the front end. Something else that we'll also try to do here that I would like to talk about a little bit is CSS colors and the various color systems you can use. You probably noticed me, typing out colors in hex and typing out colors in RGB or RGBA values. And you might wonder what all that is. It's not magic. There's actually a technique to it that will help. And I'll explain that so that you understand how colors work in CSS. And that way you can actually mix your own colors without having to memorize a whole bunch of different text values. Okay. The colors I put together, I don't memorize. I kind of like, you notice I tweak them and adjust them until I get just the kind of colors I want. Now we're going to do that in the context of changing the theme for these charts, right? We'll see how we can specify different color schemes for the charts so that we have a little more, a wider range of colors or they're better contrasted. Okay. All right. So to get started, we're going to start off with working to have a time series chart, a time series graph. But first, I don't know how many people are familiar with what time series data is. Is there anyone? Or is there anyone that's not familiar with the term?
I'm not familiar with it. I've never heard it.
Okay. All right, that's fine. So that way we can explain it and make sure we're all comfortable. Okay, is there anyone that's familiar with it? Okay. So time series data is data that's specified over time intervals, right? It's actually a very, very common type of graph, right, or type of data, in that the best example is, well, this data we're working on, COVID data, that's on the daily intervals. We have a number for today, have a number for the day before, have a number for different periods, intervals of time, or different periods in time, right? If we take all that data over time at specific time intervals, we have time series data. Okay, so if we have, like, for example, if we have the data for every day in May, we have a data point for May 1st, data point for May 2nd, May 3rd, May 4th, May 5th, May 5th, May 6th, that whole collection of data from May 1 through May 31st at a daily interval is a time series data for the month of May. And so you can easily plot a chart of that with the y-axis being, the value and the x-axis being the dates. So, 1 point for each date, and then you have the vertical axis being the actual values. And then if you join the points, you get a nice line graph. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to create an XY graph, a line graph of time series data. And what we can also do with that data is we can actually overlay different types of data. So we can overlay cases and deaths, right? We can lay them together. We can do a chart of the cumulative to show how the cumulative is increasing, right? Or just the daily cases. So the daily cases will have, spikes and drops. The cumulative would be constantly rising, but you can see how steeply or how shallowly it is rising, right? And so we can have have two charts, one of the cumulatives and one of the daily counts, and that, give us a sense of how things are going. Okay, does that make sense? Does that make sense, everyone?
Makes sense to me.
Okay. So now, last week we looked at a SQL. We did something new in our SQL statement. We used the group by, right? What's the term? Keywords in our statement, right? What group by does is that if we look at the data that we have in our MySQL table, right? So let me just jump here. I didn't know where I had MySQL, but okay, let me open up a new terminal here. I'll play with it. I'll make it really large so
Can you maximize your screen?
yes, it is maximized. So you can zoom in Zoom. Sorry for the play of words, but you can zoom in Zoom. But my screen is maximized right now. I have a huge screen, so it's probably zoomed out a lot for you. So you can zoom in with Control Plus or Control your mouse wheel. All right. So now let's look at the database and a snapshot of the data, just so we have an idea of um, what group by does for us, because group by is very important in this query. So I'm going to use master classroom, which I think is the database I have, right? And we have our COVID data. So if I'm going to run a query here, show this, sorry, I'm going to select distinct, right? Date reported from COVID data, right? So what distinct date reported does is it gives me all the unique dates in there. Right now we have 133 distinct dates. So the distinct keyword will select unique values. Now, of course, our dates are repeated. If I just do select dates, if I just do select date reported, right, from COVID data, we have 16,000 records there, right? But the select distinct tells me that there are 133 unique dates in there, which is great because that brings us, that gives us quite a lot of data to work with, all the way from January through May, right? Which is awesome. Okay, so that's select distinct. Now we have 133 unique dates, right? But we actually have 16,000 records in the database, right? Which means what? It comes to about 100 plus, right, records per day, okay, for each of the columns. Now, if we want to get the total, the sum on a daily basis, right, what we do is we group by the day. If we want to get the sum across all the days per country, we group by country, right? You can get to sum on a daily basis for a country. You will group by country and then by date. You get what I mean? So in this case, we're looking for the cumulative across the entire world, in which case we'll just group by day, and then we can, get all the different matrices that we need on a daily basis. Does that make sense? Please let me know if you don't understand that, so I can make sure we understand it before we jump further. Okay, so that's what the group by does. It narrows, it brings together all the data for a particular group by, for a particular date, and then if you want to do a sum, you do a sum. If you want an average, you do an average. Whatever operation you want to do on that collection, it will do for each date in this. So let's now go back here. Actually, let's go back here. All right, so we'll come back here, and now let's come to the back end, which is where we need to make our change. And so we're going to create a new endpoint for this. So right now we have regions, right, which is what we did. We got the regions data. Now we're going to get the data by date. So we're going to say route.get, right, /time series. Okay, and this is, remember, this is how we create a route in Express. So we just want to request a response, and that's our callback function, right? And so our query this time is select, and we want a sum, right? We want a sum of new cases as as cases, right? And this as keyword is an alias. I don't want my column in the results to be, if I don't do this if I don't alias it, it will give me a column called this. This is not a very nice column name. Do you agree?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Do you have to write it that way?
Yes. Well, so the as is actually a SQL keyword. So as. Okay.
Well, I was asking if you deliberately use small and upper case.
No. So this is how you write the as, right? And this is your aliasing this as that, so that the column we will get from the result of our query will be called cases, rather than being called some new cases, which can be really annoying to work with. All right. So do cases, right? Some cases, some new deaths. That's right. I can say some cumulative cases. Actually, no, we don't do a sum of cumulative cases. Because the cumulative cases should be, Oh yes, we do some of cumulative cases, right? Total cases, or what's it cumulative?
And why are you summing up the cumulative cases?
Well, because it's a cumulative for each country.
Okay, so you're trying to get for the world.
Yes, I'm trying to get across the world
Okay.
per day.
Oh, gotcha.
Right. So, and then, so some cumulative deaths as cumulative deaths, right? And then so these data, right? Group by date recorded. All right. Now this isn't going to work yet because I need to have the date reported field in my select as well. So let's do that. We're going to select date reported as well. Date reported as date. Okay, so that's our query. Ooh, no. So this is our query, and this should be good. Let's try running this and see what we get back in our endpoint. So connection.query, right? Equal. Now function error, and then the results. Okay, and then here if error. Also the wrong error. So you can see what the error is, and then we check where's the send results. Okay, and let's start our server. Oh, start our server. Have an error somewhere. This route is undefined. Yeah, of course. This is associated route. Okay. All right. So, oh. All right. So let's check this out now. We'll come here. Let's come to our endpoint, and we're looking for time series, right? This is time. That's from time series. Okay. So here we have starting from January, 41 cases, 1 death, 0 cases. So it still stays, which makes sense, right? 1 case, cumulative goes to 2, 1, 3. And you can see the rise in cases on a daily basis. This is going to be an interesting chart. You can almost literally see the spread.
Can't wait to see it, man.
All right. Okay. All right. So let's now put this together. So we have our time series data. This is the data that we need. 16 records or elements in our array. So this is an array of JSON objects, right? And we have the date key that we can use. All right, so let's go to the front end and let's look at consuming this data. Let's make this a little more interactive. What do we have that fetches the data? I asked the same question last time, and I got crickets. In our Angular application, right?
That was a service.
Okay, yes. So the service is what we use to fetch our data, right? And we already have a service, so we're just going to add a method to it to make this particular request, right? So let's close this and let's open our COVID data service, right? All right. So we'll open our COVID data service here, and let's create a method in the service called, we can call it anything, but we'll call it get time series, right? And we want this method to return, let's copy this line so I don't have to. And we want it to return here. Right? We wanted to call this address, this right? So this method is going to make a get request, http.get to this address. And that will help us. That will bring the data from the backend into the Angular app, and then we can then consume that data and do whatever we want to do. Now, the other thing that we need to do is to come into the component, right? So, which is our app component in this case. So into our app component, and that's the TypeScript file, like this. And here, we want to make a call for that time series data. So similar to what we did here, which is our COVID data service, we're going to do it this, the COVID data service, right? The get time series, okay? And then we're going to subscribe to that. So now, why are we doing a dot subscribe? Does anyone remember? Or does anyone know why we're doing a dot subscribe? We're doing a dot subscribe. Okay, let me explain what's going on this line. Before I explain what's going on this line here, I will ask everyone, or ask the room, can anyone tell me what this line does? Line 31. What does line 31 do? I need at least one answer.
So,
It's going to pass, I guess, passing information across.
No, read that line and tell me what that line does. Like, what does this? What is this?
It calls
this
the
line?
Isn't it calls the get time series method?
Correct. On the get time series method on what?
On the service, on the COVID data service.
Correct. So it calls that method on the COVID data service. What does that method do? Now, just reading the code of the method, does this method return a value or not?
Yes. It's a get. It's a get.
No, but does that method, this is the get time series method here, right? This is it here, right?
Yes.
It is between this block.
Yes.
Right. So does that method, in the code of that method, does it return a value?
I don't know about the value. It looks like a series of values.
Yeah, it doesn't return anything.
Yes, it returns something, yes.
Right. And you know it returns because you have a return keyword here. Right? So you know that when you call this method, you will get something back. Right? Now, at this point, let's say we don't know what it is that we will get back, right? But we know that we'll get something back because it returns. Okay? Now, if we examine what this method does, what does this line do?
Sorry, which line?
Line 20 on the service. What does line 20 on the service do?
That's what returns the request. The get
Well,
it services the get request.
okay, so what is this? What is this get? Is it a method? Is it calling a method?
It is a method. Yeah.
A route handler?
No, it's
a
actually
method.
not a route handler. Yes. It is a method on what? What method? What's the name of the method?
You mean the get?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. As well as yes. What is that? What method is it? It's calling the get method, right?
Yes.
Right. Great. And it's calling the get method on what?
On the protocol?
No. What is this?
That's what I was calling the protocol.
No. This is a variable. I could call this whatever I want.
Oh, okay.
Don't be fooled by me calling it HTTP. HTTP is the name I gave it. But
Oh, okay.
This here, right? This is a property of the current object. You see, it is a this.http. Whenever you see the this keyword, it is referring to this current class, right?
Yes.
So this.anything means it is whatever it is I'm calling is on this class. So it means that this class has an HTTP property. It's a property because there's no parenthesis there, right?
Yeah.
Versus a method.
So what it means is that properties can also have methods within them.
Because the property is an object.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
The property is a variable. It can contain an object, it can contain a string, it can contain
Makes sense.
Right, a boolean or an integer. It's whatever is value is saved on that property. But what's important to do when you're reading this is that, okay, there's an HTTP property, right, on this class. So if you want to investigate it, if you want to know what get returns, you need to figure out what this object is, because then that'll tell you what the get method on this object does and what the value it returns back. Because what's returned out of here is actually what's returned from get, because get is the final call. So this line is saying return the result of executing the get method on this property of this object. And that means that this get method returns something. If it doesn't return anything, this whole thing will return nothing, because the return is essentially you're returning the last thing in the chain. You get? So we need to find out, okay, where is this HTTP property defined on our object? It is actually defined here through direct injection, right? Remember, this is direct injection. This syntax here, where you have a constructor and then you have a private property with a specific type that is an injectable, right? So once you have this pattern here, it means that this is where that private property HTTP that we're using everywhere is declared. And this HTTP is a type of HTTP client, right? And we look at HTTP client. Where is HTTP client coming from? Coming from Angular common HTTP. So you can actually come out here and you come to the Angular documentation, right? Let's find that somewhere. With the Angular documentation, and we search for HTTP client. Okay, and if you look here, there, and if you click on this and you look at this documentation here, don't be driven too nuts by this, but when you look at it, you see the get here, you see the get method here, and this get method, if you click on that to go to the documentation of it, right, this is it here. But eventually, if you actually look at it, it tells you here that it returns an observable. Okay. And that observable, the way you handle the data coming back from an observable is you subscribe to an observable. And observables are similar to promises, but they are a key element of asynchronous programming today, right? And the way it works is that when we come back in here, you see this line here. When this line is called, it will fire off and be done immediately. But the call it's making to the API may take 3 seconds, it may take 5 seconds, it may take 20 seconds. The code won't wait for the call to complete and return the data before it moves on to the next line. It will just keep going because it's asynchronous. Synchronous means it executes a line, waits until that line is completely done before it moves to the next line, waits until that's done before it moves to the next line. But in asynchronous programming, it just fires off the lines, right? And then you have the data or each line being completed at different times. And you may end up with race conditions. I've used that term before, where a line finishes before another line, right? Or a line is fired off before a previous line that it is dependent on. So the way to get around that here is to use either promises, in which case that line returns a promise, right? And you can put a callback on the promise and say, hey, whenever you're done and you have all the data, call this function I've given you with the data and do whatever is in there. So you wrap the logic you want to follow that line, you put it in the promise callback so that it doesn't matter whether it takes 1 second or it takes 30 seconds. Whenever that promise is done executing, it will call that callback with the data, and the logic you have in the callback will then execute.
Can you remind?
The program hasn't waited.
Can you remind us how to do that? How to call that? Do that call
Now,
logic?
I'll show you how to do it for subscribers.
Okay.
Now with observables, an observable will not fire. So this line here, if I just have this line here, and I'll show you. And let's run our application. Okay, it's running here. All right. If we come here to our application here, and we inspect this, let's inspect this. Okay. And come here to our network, right? If I refresh this, you're not going to see a call going out to time series, even though in my code here, I have that line here. That's because an observable will not trigger unless there's a subscription to it. The difference between an observable and a promise, that's one of the differences. Is if I had a promise there, it will fire. Whether or not I do anything with the promise, it will always fire. But with an observable, it will not fire until you subscribe to it, which is great because you can declare one observable and then subscribe to it multiple times, right? It's more efficient. So the way I'm going to do this now is that because this get time series returns an observable, I can call, and this is what we call chaining. I can just do a dot subscribe, right? This dot is on the return value of this. So the return value of a method or a function you can use immediately. You don't have to save it in a separate variable. You can just connect to it by just putting a dot right after the closing parenthesis. Just do a dot. And whatever comes out of that function, you're using a property or a method of it. So in this case, we're going to call dot subscribe. And you will see what happens now when I do dot subscribe. I save this. Now you will see a call going out to time series. Okay? Because I now have a subscription to the observable. So this is a common gotcha. People will do this and be like, hey, come on, my page is not requesting anything. Why? You know, it's because you haven't subscribed. And in the subscription is where we then handle the data that comes back.
And it almost feels like there's an analogy with the literal use of the word subscribe in a sense.
Right. The newspaper company won't send you a paper unless you subscribe.
Yes, and the fact that you're subscribed means it comes when it's ready without you having to like ask for it. It's like you've pre-asked for it. Okay, like when this thing is ready, get it to me.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
Correct. Exactly that. Exactly that. It's what we call deferred execution or deferred logic. Right? So you've deferred that logic for whenever it's ready. It's like, hey, here's what to do whenever it's ready. Just let me know, take your time, do whatever you want. As soon as you're done, right? And that's what happens. So now we can come here and we can create a callback to use that, you know, the data that comes back from the endpoint. So we'll create our callback, and there are two callbacks you provide. You provide one for success and one for error, right? So if it returns 4xx or 5xx, it will go into the second callback, right? If it returns a 200 error 2xx, it will go into the first callback. So here I'm going to do a callback for success, which is going to be, and we're expecting just data, right? And then I'll do a second callback for error, which is error. Well, actually, I did that's one line. And then this dot time series error equals true, right? Actually, let me do it properly. Yeah. I want to have the spinner as well and all of that. And I'll show you in this one an example of actually using that error. Okay, so now we have our, and then we're going to say this the time series data equals data, right? This the time series loading equals false. All right, so tell me, what is this the time series data? Is it a method, a property? Where can I find it?
So this is a property, and you should be able to find it in this particular class.
Correct. That's absolutely right. And so that means I should, now, of course, I'm getting an error here because if you look at the error, you see what it says, property time series data does not exist on type app component. It's telling me that my app component does not have a property called time series data, right? I'm trying to use it here. I'm trying to assign a value to it, but I haven't declared that property. So Angular is rightly telling me that that property does not exist on this class. So what I need to do here is I need to declare it here. Sorry, time series data, right? We'll make that any. Okay. And we have time series loading, right? True, so that it gives us a loading spinner immediately. And we're going to say time series error.
And the any is the typing, right?
Yes, the N is typing. These others I've assigned values to, so they're implicitly typed.
Gotcha.
I've
It's like
implied the typing.
it's one object. Gotcha.
Yeah, so these are implicitly typed. So
Because
these are typed as Boolean
because it's referring to one value.
No. They're implicitly typed because I am giving them a Boolean value immediately.
That's what I'm saying. You've given it the value. So once you have a value, you already have a type.
Yes, you are specifying the type in the value you are initializing it with. So
Gotcha.
I've initialized it immediately.
Gotcha.
In this case, I just declared it. I didn't give it a value.
Yeah, but
So
you typed it because you typed it.
Yeah, it's declared, but it's not initialized. And what I've done is I've declared it and I've let it open. I can store whatever type I want on it later. Using the any type is not the best practice.
Oh, that's true. Because it's like
not best practice.
You might as well not type. Gotcha.
Right. Exactly. It's not best practice, but this keeps it kind of happy. There are cases where you have to use the any type. You don't have a choice, right? But typically, you want to, as soon as possible, know what you're going to put in there and create a type. All right. So for now, and you see that once we've declared those, Angela is now happy, right? Because we've declared all these missing parameters. All right. Okay. Let's do something here, and we'll get to the chart in a little bit, but let's just do something a little interesting. So I can close the service. We're done with the service. And instead of this, let me open up this main template. Okay, so we can put a spinner for the time series. And, well, actually, yes, we also want, even if it throws an error, we want it to remove the spinner. Right? Okay. So, do you understand this? If it succeeds, I want the spinner to disappear. If it fails, I want the spinner to disappear, but I want to show an error message. Right? So I'm certain these are just Booleans that I will use as ng ifs. Okay. Excuse me 1 second. Okay. So these are just Boolean values that I'll use for ng ifs, but that's what I want to play with here. So let's go back to our template for our component. So app.component.html, which is our template. Okay. Keep that open. So let's add a spinner for our time series chart, right? So let's come down here. These are our pie charts. That's our table. All right, so let's do this. Just add a new div here. Right? And then what we're going to do in here is we're going to put our progress bar here. Let's copy our progress bar down. But this time, this is the spinner for our time series loading, right? That's our time series loading indicator. So I'm going to set this here to ng if, which is essentially our if condition, the time series loading. All right. And this works for us. Sets up the spinner for that. So if I refresh this page now here, I don't know if you notice the second spinner, but let me not make it go to false so that it's,
is there a way to slow it down?
Well, yes, I can actually throttle the connection, but I can actually also just not kill it so you can see it in place.
Oh, okay.
So if I don't set it to false, You see the spinner? It's still there.
Ah,
Can you see it?
yeah.
Can you see it spinning? So it's still there because I made it not to disappear, which is what the ngIf does. It's only visible if time series loading is true. In this case, it's still true because I initialized it to true. Time series loading is true. So it will stay true until I make it false. So if I come here, right, and I clear that so that it becomes false when the, okay, now it's gone. Okay, now let's see what happens if there's an error, right? Let's create a div class equals error, right? And we're gonna say ngIf. What's our property for error? Anyone?
Is
What do
it
I
data
have?
error?
No, what do I have?
Oh, sorry,
Instead of,
time series error rather.
there you go. So ngIf time series error, right? This here is, remember I have the error branch and I've said if there's an error, set time series error to true. If I do ngIf time series error, this div will show up if I have an error, okay? And so now I can say, let's say math icon, and just use this, right? Error. I'm going to use a material icon. Okay. Let me do this. Let me put it in my page. So it's nice and HD, right? Let's say error. Okay. And then let's give it a paragraph here that describes the error. There was an error loading time series data for this date range. Okay, something like that. Okay. Now, I do need to add, I don't think I have my material icon in there, yes, which is a complaint here. Math icon is not a known element. So I'll just add it very quickly in my app.
Yeah, I was going
module.
to ask you about that. Whether it's something, I was going to ask if it was like a default thing from material or whether you had to
You
go
have to add
search
it.
for it.
Yeah, you have to add it. It's in Angular material already, but you
Okay,
have to include it in your app to use it.
interesting.
Right. So I'll just look for, where is that? Come on, not that one. Not that one. This looks like material. Yes. So icon right there. And remember, you come to the API. So I can borrow this. And okay, let me do this. Excuse me. Okay. Dog knocked something over. All right, I'm just spacing this out so that I can group my my material modules together. All right. Okay. So we have So I've added the math icon module, and then here, my imports, I'm just going to add like this one. And that will give me access. And this module is super cool because it allows me to add icons easily. Okay, so now we're good, no problem, but we don't have an error yet, right? Because our endpoint is returning a 200. We come here, and we refresh this, it's returning a 200. So all we need to do is to just break it, right? If you want to see it, we'll just come to the back here, and we'll break it by breaking the query. So yada, yada, right? And that's going to break the query. Okay. It will break the query, which will make it return a 500. And that way we'll actually have an error. The time series now. Wait, what? Oh, hold on. It's not returning a 500, even though it is throwing an error here. So let's do this. Let's actually make a return an error here, which is.
So it's not like it executes the SQL requests before it gets to the yada yada parts.
No, it executes it.
I'm just wondering why the yada yada would cause an error.
Because yada yada is not a valid SQL.
Okay, okay.
So the database will reject this query and say, yo.
What is yada yada?
Yeah.
I understand everything before yada yada, but I don't know yada yada. Right.
So yeah, so yada yada is not a, so look at it. Look at this. This is the database error. This is my SQL, right? Error. Okay. It says you have an error in your SQL syntax. Check the manual that corresponds to your MySQL Server version for the right syntax to use near yada yada. You see that MySQL like totally like no. You have to. Let's take a step back here. Make sure you know what you're trying to do. But this is
why does it say near though? Like, why does it just say yada yada, man? I think that's
not sure. The thing is not sure.
It's like, hey,
it's being polite.
Right, it is being polite. You know, it's like, hey, you might not, and it's like, okay, let's assume you kind of have a brain, so just go check the manual. Okay, you know, hopefully you're trying to do something, but you don't have it together. You know, so check the manual and figure out it and see how you're going to actually do yada yada. All right, so. But what we can do here, let's do this in the back end. We don't have error handling in the back end, which is why we didn't catch that error per se. We know there's an error, but we didn't write any code to actually say, hey, there's an error. So what we're going to do is we're going to output a generic error to the front end, right? And we're going to do it by setting a status code in our response. The response.status, right? I will send a 500. And we'll say that send, right? We'll say a server error occurred. Okay? Usually it's like an internal server error or internal server error, whatever. But you write something here. Now, for security reasons, you don't put the query, you don't say exactly what the error was. You just make it as big as possible so a hacker can't figure out what's going on and exactly why. So now we have this here, and then you may still now you may still want to log it to the console, right? Just so that you can debug it. Now, what you log to the console, for those who have been doing infrastructure, you know that this will show up in your CloudWatch logs in that way. If someone's complaining about it, you can check CloudWatch logs and you see this and tell the developer, hey, your query is messed up. That's why. You know, you can go fix it. Or the developer can check themselves actually. Let's go to log error. All right, so log that. All right, so now we have this. This should actually return a proper error. And look at how, you see how it's turned red? It's trying to fail. Oh. Yeah. This is supposed to be. I'm missing something here. Let's see. Oh, app crashed. Oh, error is not defined. Error. All right. See how we're doing here. All right. Good. Press this again. Okay. You see now we have it. It's red. We have our 500 error code. Remember we talked about HTTP response codes. So 500 is a server error. We have that. And if we come to our page now, and we look, wait, save here. Did we save this? Oh, no, we didn't save it. Okay, so let's come to our page here, and we have ngif time series error, right? Okay. What's our error? Okay, there you go. There's our error. See that right there? And so we can actually, and so that is what this does for us. If the backend is broken, we can display a nice error to the user. We can style this slightly here. So we can just say.
So that matte arrow, sorry, that matte icon comes with its own default
Yes.
styling, but now you want to make it better. You can now add additional styling to it, right?
Well, so matte icon, it doesn't come with any styling. It is an icon, is a set of icons. So,
okay. So what we're seeing there is just the default styling of your app, as it were. Okay.
Right. So if I come here, material icons, right, which is, it's really nice as well. No, material. Okay, yes. So these are the icons, and there's a whole library of icons, and it's a growing library of icons. So I can just search here for, I think I want alert. No, I want a warning. Warning. Yeah, I want this warning. Right? Okay, so the icon I want here is warning. And so here you just type in the name of the icon that you want, which would be warning. Okay. When I save that, I come here. When the page reloads, I now have that warning triangle. Okay. And so,
Interesting.
you know, now I can just add styles for my error. What would I call this? Div error. So I'm going to say div.error, right? I'll say background red, color white.
Yeah.
Okay. And padding 10 pixel. Save that. Look at that.
Nice. Nice.
Save margin.
Nice.
bottom 15%.
And then maybe a width of maybe like 50% or something.
Well, it's good for it to just take
Take the whole
that.
thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the whole block. Yeah. So right here now we have our error, right? And our error is conditional. If we come in and we fix our backend and take the yada yada out of here, which is like demon code. All right. So if we fix this and make this a good proper SQL query, yada yada before. Save that. And we refresh that now. Now we have no error anymore. Okay. All right. So now time to jump in and actually add our time series chart. Okay. So let's jump right in here. Who knows what we need to do to add our time series chart? So we have the data. But we don't have our chart widget, so we need to create a widget. What do we do?
Chart.
Well, more from an Angular perspective. So how do you create widgets in Angular? How do you create new pieces? What do you do? New parts of the application?
Well, I mean, would you need to create like a dedicated like component for that or something?
Yep. So I want to create, essentially what I need is a new component, right? Because I want to add a chart. And the component is a widget, kind of, right?
Yeah.
So that's how you think of it is, oh, okay, well, I want to add something to my app, which means I want to add a component. If you're going to add a piece to your app that has a visual, that has a template to it, something that the user will see or interact with, it's a component. That's what components are, right? Components, services don't have templates, right? Directives don't have templates. You know, components are what have templates that the user can interact with, and then the class of the component is what the brains behind the component. The template is just outputting what the class tells it to. So what we need to do is we need to create a new component. So we're going to do ng generates, so ng-gc, right? Time series. And then we'll add it to the app module. So this is -m is the same as -- module. Okay. So we create our app component here. All right. Now we haven't used it yet, so we'll add it to our app. We created our time series component, so we'll add it to our app component template. So same thing here, app.component.html, right? Which is where we add, you see, like we have the highlights component and, you know, so now we're going to come in here and we want to add our time series component, so which is app time series. Okay, and if we save this here, then it should show up right there. Tell us, you see that? Time series works. Okay, so let's edit this time series component so that we can pass the data to it. Who remembers how we pass data into a component? What do we have to define on the component for us to be able to put data into it?
Class?
No, think about it. We want to put data into the component. That means the component has an
Import?
input. Data into the component goes into the input of the content of the component. Data coming out of the component comes out of the output of the component. You get what I mean? So in this case, our app component is where our time series data is, right? Remember, it's on the time series component that we did the subscription,
Yes.
right? So this time series component is what has the subscription. But what needs to use the data from that subscription is the time series component. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So this is the app component, right? Right now. Oh, sorry. I need to do split. So the app component right now is where the subscription is, right? That's why we're doing the app to subscribe. The app component is tied to the app component HTML. They're always connected directly together because here the template, right, is defined as app component HTML. So this component and this template are coupled together very tightly. Okay, all the data that this template uses comes from this component. But we want a different component to actually use that data that is on the app component, right? We want a whole different component to use it. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this data and we will pass it as an input, right, to the we'll pass it as an input to the template, to the time series component. And that means that the time series component, if I open that up, right? If I open up the time series component, it means that this time series component has to have an input that I can put the data in through, right? So I have to come here and add the input decorator to the input here. So input, right? That's just the decorator. I'll get it from Angular. And then here now I need to declare a property called data that is an input. Okay. So it's decorated now. Now that I've done this, right, I can actually come down here to my template and I can now pass my time series data as an input. Okay. And that's what this is. So this input that I've declared here, that is it. This is called a binding. This is a one-way binding, one direction from here into here. Remember, this is an assignment. So from here into here. Okay. So now I can access this data that I passed into it on this class as this.data. If I do this.data, I'll have access to the data that's coming from outside. Okay. So there, the other thing that I want to do is to make sure it only tries to do this when there's actually data. So I'm going to add an ngif here. And I'll do that. So that way it doesn't even try to render the component until the data is ready. So my spinner, my loading bar is going to wait until it's done, right? And then when it's done, then my component will render. So that's it here. So now let's bring in our AM charts into the component so we can make it look nicer. But first we need to edit the component template. So let's edit our time series template here. And here, we're going to say div what's this? Daily charts. So we're going to do two charts very quickly. So daily charts, right? And we say class chart. And we're going to do another div here, which is going to be cumulative charts. Okay. And then and let's do this. Let's use FX. Let's use our flex box. So div FX layout equals column FX layout gap equals 1 pixel. Right. That way, these two charts will be on top of each other. They will never be side by side. And then we can say FX flex. It is FX flex for that. So keep this space here. Okay. And then let's give some styles. So they're there, but they're currently invisible. Right. Let's give our charts some styles. So we can think this. All right. So let's just put some styles on them. So one styles on div.chart, right? And we'll say mean height 300 pixels, background, okay, border 1 pixel, solid 0. Let's see what that gives us. All right, so we have our placeholders for the two charts, right? And so we need some spacing here. So let's just put some, we have to give this an ID or a class or something to select it. So we say ID is time series charts. Actually, no, I don't need to. Actually, don't need to do this. I can use the element itself, the custom element itself. Let's say app time series one and margin bottom 20 pixels. Okay. So, all right. So now we have our two placeholders can now work on bringing the AM charts in. Right? So let's borrow. Let's close this. Let's borrow from what we did with the highlights, right? Or pie chart. Yeah. I just want to borrow these two lines here so we don't have to reinvent that. Right. There. And that brings in AM charts for us. And we need to add NG zone here. NG zone here. So that we can do our we can inject NG zone. We need to direct inject it here. So private NG zone. So this is our direct injection. That gives us our private property. Now we can now in our NG init here, we can say create chart. Actually, no, it has to be this that create chart. Okay. And what that is it allows us to create a separate method called create chart. In case we want to do other things in the NGM units, which we may want to do later. And so now we can say const chart or new chart. No. This nope. What am I doing? Chart, and this is going to be an AM for charts. The we want to do an XY. Let's pull this up. This is the location for charts. And it's just four charts. And what we want is we want to create an XY chart. An XY chart is our good old so there are line series and there are column series, right? So we want a curved column series.
I think you want the line series.
Okay. All right. So line series. So this is what we want to do. So we want to okay. Let's come back here. And we want to say it's going to be. We'll go through the steps again. Right. Okay, so it's M44.3. Okay. This one. I will say let chart equals AM4 create, right? And then we want the what's the name of our divs? Open up the template here. Time series HTML. Div is daily charts. daily text, and then am4 charts dot xy chart. XY. Okay.
Crazy how we're using JavaScript to write this thing.
Yeah. So we have that, and then our data here, right? This is the data. So we already have our data. So we'll just say chart the data. And now let's actually, we want to make two charts. So chart 2, which is our cumulative charts, right? All right. And then now we want to, the next step here will be to create, so we need to define our charts here. So chart the data equals this, what data, right? And chart 2 the data equals this, the data. It's like, we're gonna have two separate charts. But what's gonna happen is the series will use a different value, right? So now we've defined data, we now need to create our, we're not doing external data. We now need to create our axis, right? So here, and then this is going to be the field that we want to use for the category axis, which is the x-axis, right? So let's just copy this. I like this one. And then I'll just edit. This here is going to be date, right? And that is for chart 1. Okay. Copy this for chart 2. Category axis 2. Chart 2. That axis, the push. All that. Okay. All right. And so this is category axis 2 here, which is the object, right? Value axis 2. And this is chart 2. That y-axis, the push. Right. There you go. Now, so you notice y-axis is an array because it has a dot push, right? And x-axis is an array because you can have multiple x-axes and multiple y-axes.
You say multiple x-axis, that's like multiple, like you're putting two graphs over each other, right?
Not necessarily. So there's some complex graphs that have multiple axes, but let's not go into that. So
No problem.
yeah.
And that I just found out that we're combining front end and back end, so you might be joining soon.
Yeah. Okay. So all right. So we've set those up. So and then now we can set up like the title text for. Okay. So here we have our data fields category. We can add this, right? So that we have a dates. Right? Let's see here as well. And do that for category access too. All right. So you can see this is starting to happen. So the chart is starting to build up of the data. Now the only thing is our x-axis, the data are crunched together. So one thing we'll work on that. There's built-in capabilities to make the data prettier. So x-axis types. So we're not going to use the category axis. Let's use a date axis. That's what we should have used. You see that? So it has like, you know, so the x-axis will make it a date axis and it will handle that formatting. So rather than it being a category axis, rather than this, we'll make it a date axis. So for these two, right? And then let's just rename them here. Let's rename those variables. So, I mean, is everyone following? Our x-axis is a date axis, not a category axis, right? The values we are passing in are dates. And it's important because it will use, AM chart will use that configuration to handle the dates properly.
Gotcha.
So I'm just renaming these variables here so that good. All right. So if I save this here, and we come, once this refreshes, property category, it's not
Yeah.
system type. Oh yeah, yeah.
That was it.
Okay. So yeah, I am, there's one thing I need to do here. Date axis. And then the property. Um, data field. Yeah, so all we need is data fields. Okay, we'll come back. Let's come back here. So it's complaining about this that category. This should be data. Let's see. Two. Oh, hold on. Right. Example here. Okay, yeah, so what we need to do is we need to set big X instead of category X. we're almost done here. Oh, still. No, excuse me. Let's look at this documentation again. See. Sample. And like I said, I will, work through it here because I actually want you guys to see how to use the documentation to solve the problem. So, and I'm looking for data fields, right? So, data fields. Okay, this is the data fields. Uh, Sample here. Here. Data fields. Okay. And this is a date axis data item. And let's see. So it's going to be data fields date. Let me check. I have this already solved, so let me just take a peek. All right. Okay. I'm just going to take a peek at how I solve this. So. Okay. Oh, actually, interesting. Oh, I don't need to actually configure it. If I just take this out, yeah, that's still not right. Well, let's see. Let's do the columns, um the value columns first, and then
Y-axis.
yeah, let's do the y-axis. So come back here, here. So continue. All right. So let's now create the series. So we've created the value axis, right? And let's see. Okay, we haven't labeled the value axis, so let's label them. Value axis. Text. Value axis. Title text equals um, persons. Now we have just two. Okay. So let's see what we get here. We have persons on the y-axis. Okay. Dates on the x-axis. So the next thing we just need to do is to create our series. Let's have at least one series. So, okay. So we're going to create a line series, right? So um, oh, let series equals to chart that series dot push. New and for charts that line series. Okay, and we need that series 2. So let's do this. So we say daily case series and say simulating case series. All right. So let's create our 4 series. Now we need to now say what field on the data, right? Okay. So data fields. Okay. So we say daily case series data fields value. What's that? The value y. What's our response here? Cases. Okay. Cases. And then here we say the that series data fields value y. Let's see how this works for us. This thing, property line series. Okay.
So unforgiving.
Yeah. The date fields for series are not properly, or data fields. Yeah, it's not forgiving at all. All right, so let's see. Let's look at our data fields. Almost there. We're almost there. We are almost there. Okay, so let's look at this array that they have for data. There's an array of objects, and we have an array of objects. Okay. Now I think it's our date, our category, like our x-axis is what's not good. So we need to define for our series the data fields dot datex. Let's try this. Let's try this. If we say daily, right, case series dot data fields dot date x, right, equals date. Let's say daily data series data field dot date x. See what this does. Be happy for once, just be happy. There you go.
Whew, sweet data.
Yeah, and they're overlaid on each other. So
Nice. So how do you squeeze it so that it's not this stretched out?
well, it's actually good for it to be stretched out like this,
Okay.
because this is January through May, and this is actually on a day. So when we haven't added a cursor, so you can mouse over and see.
Okay.
You get what I mean? Yeah. But I mean, like, what I would have liked to do, but we haven't done, we'll probably just pick up in the next class, is to add a date range picker, right?
A what?
A date range picker.
Okay.
So you can pick a start date and an end date. But you see what's interesting in this data, there's a day here when the number came down.
That's probably March 12th, 13th when they switched testing. They switched modes of testing and modes of reporting. Okay. So a lot of countries had zero data for that day,
okay,
which they apply to the next day. You understand?
Yeah. So let's do this other one, and then we'll work on colors. Okay, because I do want to talk about colors very quickly, and it's not complex. All right, so we've made these two work, so we just need to define the date fields. So cumulative case series, right? The data field, the date x equals date, and cumulative case series dot data field dot value y equals cumulative cases, right? Is that what we have there? The cumulative cases and cumulative deaths. All right. If we save this now, our next chart should. Oh, it won't show up still because the second one is my second. So. And then here, yes, we're going to say cumulative cumulative death series data fields dot x cumulative data fields the value y cumulative. And this is, this is just setting a property, right? It's just assigning a, or yeah. And there we have our cumulative. So that's what the curve. That's what the curve looks like. And if we get the June data and we track it in the database, then we have even more. Right? So this is our curve. Now let's look at very quickly. Well, so there are many other options that we could add. Like we could keep going and we could add, tooltips, right? We could add a name to the series. We could add, so like our series here, it's so our series here, if we say, because right now we don't have any indicator of what, sorry, here, we don't know what these two lines are, right? So it's easy. Yeah, so it's easy to come in here now and say daily case series dot name equals daily cases, right? And then we can say daily death series dot name equals daily deaths. Okay. We come and say cumulative case series dot name equals total cases, right? And then doesn't really matter if it's single or double, but you don't mix them. You don't use single in some cases and double in some cases. All right, and so we say cumulative death series name equals total deaths. All right, and this should include our oops, and okay. So now let's just do the last thing, which is our colors. What we do is we define an array of, let me come here, and I'll quickly talk to what Colors. Come on. Let's see. Okay. So I'm gonna do here. Okay. So chart colors list, right? This is an array, and this is going to be each item. There is going to be an AM4 core color, right? And I'll just give it a hex value. So if I give this one, I'm just going to make this a red, right? And I'm going to make this a green, and then I'll explain how I know that it's a red. Okay. So no, this is comma. All right. So here, if we look at our chart now, we should have a red line and a green line. Okay. So how do I know it's red and green? The hex value is in two, I think these are called two octets, right? Or they're in pairs, red, green, blue. And essentially you get colors by mixing colors, by mixing red and green and blue. That's how you get all the different colors. 0 is absolutely no red, right? Or absolutely no green, absolutely no blue. FF is maximum red, maximum green, maximum blue. So you go from 0, 0 to FF. So if I want just green, green is the middle two. Red is the first two, RGB. So red, green, and blue. If I want white, white is all the colors at their maximum values is white. Gray is the same level of all the colors. So like that's why I get these grades by doing 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, or 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, or 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. That gives me gray. So if I want this to be white, it would be FF, FF, FF. That's all the colors, and so the line that I had that was green will now be white. You see that? If I want it to be blue, then I'm going to turn off the red and the green, right? Which is 0, 0 red, 0, 0 green. And this is going to give me a pure blue. It's only blue in it. Okay. So it's now going to be red and blue. If I want a little green in it so that it's like a pastel color, right? I can come in here and I can put in 66 green. Okay. Which will make it a nicer blue, right? It's going to be brighter as well because there's more, info in it. And if I want it to be even less blue and more, have more green in it, I can take this here and I can take this to 9, 9. Now after 9 is A, so it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. And F is 9. So here, I've added some more green to it. Right? If I want to make it brighter, I can add some red to it as well, which will make it a little brighter. So if I go B66. Right. The red is not enough to change it dramatically, but I guess keep going with the two colors until get a mix out. All right, and same thing. Like if I want like a yellow, right, I can do like full red, some green, and no blue at all. That'll give me like a yellowish type color. So this is how you mix colors. Really, just remember the two. First two is red, second two is green, third is blue. The higher the values, the brighter the color. If I want a dark red, right, I would go with like maybe rather than doing an FF, which is a full red. If I went with like a um, maybe a 6/6, right? So I'll have two reds, but the lower one should be darker. You can see that it doesn't have as much light shining through it. Okay. So I'll just go with the red and the green for those two. 0, 0. Let me flip them so that the red is that. Okay, so that's the theory behind the colors. That's how you can figure out your colors when you're doing your CSS. And this is the same in CSS. These are actually CSS colors. These are just hex color values. Okay. Any questions so far? I have crickets. I think people just passed out. Everyone's brain dead. No?
So it's the next class that we're gonna.
Sorry, there's some feedback. Yeah, you were saying what?
I was asking if it's in the next class we'll figure out how to put the labels on the graph itself.
Yeah, I mean it's actually pretty quick. It's actually pretty quick, but yes, let's save that to the next class.
Okay.
And then we'll put the labels and then we'll do the date ranges.
Okay.
Right. So today we used a little more Angular material, right? We added the what was it we added from Angular material? The icon. Right? When we're doing the date ranges and stuff, we use a lot more Angular material because we use the date picker and we might use like text fields and buttons and stuff, you know. But that will make this, and then we'll then see how we'll connect that and make the backend. And so the next class is tomorrow. We'll also make the backend return data, but filtered data. So we can say, okay, give us for the month of January, or give us, for the month of March, and see how that impacts the chart and where you get the chart. So we're going to add more, more user interactivity in the charts. Okay. So here you see we already have the icons, the cursor, the tooltips on this chart. So it's working pretty well. So we're going to add something similar to this, but it will be vertical lines, and when you mouse over a point, it will show you the number at that point and the date. So that'll be our objective for tomorrow, to make these charts pop a little more. We change the text color here as well, so it stands out rather than black, maybe white or something, or brighter gray at least. Okay. Wait, what? Okay, so sorry, that's that's the dog trying to tell me she needs to go out. All right, hold on, sit. Okay, all right, so we'll end the class here, and just hold on for a second for the after party. And I forgot to ask Rocky what his challenge was to see if we could stop during the class. But I'll stop recording. We'll have a few minutes of after party and then Covid-19. Okay. Any questions so far?